Welcome, everybody, to the Sleeper Wire Show. We have some great discussion today about a topic that unfortunately has to happen after all of the injuries in just week 2 and for all of the injuries that are upcoming because, let's face it, it's going to keep happening. We're going to be talking about the handcuffs for each starting running back in the NFL. I am your host, Professor Chris, and with me today, I've got Prophet Huss on the show. Huss, how's it going, man?
Pretty dang good, man. I wish we weren't talking handcuffs because that means
I know
there's a lot of injured guys.
I know
We're not usually talking handcuffs.
This is a topic we want to do in November, but right now, nobody thought Mike Davis was worth having on their team. So we're gonna explore what other players might be worth getting preemptively. But before we move on, Nader of the Top Tier Tactics podcast is back on the show as well. Nader, how's it going, man?
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. It feels really good. It's always fun branching out and joining another family podcast. So I'm definitely excited to be here.
Yeah, we're pumped you're back on the show. I think last time you were on, it was just me and you, right?
Yes. That was a fun show. I enjoyed that one.
And now Huss is in here. He's ruining this bromance.
I was tempted to not join you guys because I was like, I'm not going to lie. Like, you guys sound really nice and sexy together. And last show, I was like touching myself. I was like, what's happening? I started touching myself. And then, Chris is my bae. And then I was like, I don't know. We might have to. Then I was like, I have to come because we got to make it a threesome, right?
Ooh.
Hey.
Well,
now it's a party.
Yeah, now it's a party. Right.
It's a party. Hey.
Well, guys, I hate to bring down the good mood we have here right now with some unfortunate news. We are very sad to have heard about the passing of James the Brain Kotulis this past Saturday. He was one of the co-hosts of the Superflex Super Show podcast, and he's been in my Sleeper Wire Pro-Am League for the last 2 years now. He was always incredibly friendly whenever I interacted with him, whether it was on Twitter or in the league chat on Sleeper. Our thoughts go out to him, his family, and his co-host, John Hogue, who you can find on Twitter at SuperFlexDude. As they go through this difficult time, it's always hard losing someone in this industry. And, as all of you guys listening know, Sleeper Wire is a charity. You guys have always stepped up as a group to support our cause. So if anyone feels like donating to help out his wife and family, we will be sharing the link in the description of the podcast and also on the Sleeper post when the show comes out. If you feel like, donating some money to help his family in this difficult time. So I just wanted to give a shout out to James and our thoughts and prayers and feelings and good vibes and everything go out to you guys there.
F in the chat.
What's
that one's a know your meme one. You're gonna have to
what'd you say? I missed it.
So F in the chat.
F in the chat.
F in the chat.
I didn't know that meme.
I don't know that meme.
No, when you look it up, you'll understand.
We are old,
it.
Man.
We are old.
I'm a millennial. Sorry.
I mean, so is Chris and I, but I'm literally the cusp.
Oh, really?
Chris is a full on.
Yep.
Now I'm disappointed in you guys.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move into the news. So we did have, as we mentioned, a lot of offensive injuries in week 2. I'm just going to run through these here because we're going to talk about a lot of these as we go through. Christian McCaffrey, high ankle sprain, out 4 to 6 weeks, and Saquon Barkley, torn ACL, out for season. These were the 2 big ones, but we also had a lot of, fantasy relevant players go down. Raheem Mostert, sprained MCL, out 2 to 4 weeks. Tevin Coleman, knee injury, out multiple weeks. Cam Akers, rib injury, out indefinitely, and it's reported that his recovery is going slowly. Courtland Sutton, torn ACL and MCL, out for season. Paris Campbell, PCL and sprained MCL, out indefinitely. Sterling Shepard, turf toe, out indefinitely. Rashad Perriman, week to week. Jimmy Garoppolo, week to week. And Drew Lock, out 2 to 6 weeks with a rotator cuff sprain. Guys, this was brutal.
Preseason.
Either your team is amazing now or it's in the gutter.
It's just one of the two.
Yeah, it's no in between at this point.
It's amazing by default.
It's shit's so sad, man. Like, I have a team that I lost like pretty much all of these guys. Pretty much like all of these guys. And I was just like, okay, what do I do here now? Like, I'm picking up Darnell Mooney, who I like, but I didn't think I'd have to start him. I mean, are you serious? It's no fun, man. But hey, we're here to help you guys get through.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a rough one. I was talking with Jake Seeley, who was on the Great Debate this week, and it's got to be the no preseason, right?
Yeah.
The players were not, in game shape. They were not ready for NFL game action, and we're seeing it now. And this is not going to be the last week where we have this many injuries, I don't think. What do you think, Nader?
See, our theory is that it wasn't preseason, because in preseason they only play a drive or two, or if anything, a quarter. I mean, it's hard to get in game shape from preseason, in my opinion, and from what we've seen in the past. So I'm not quite sure I'm ready to put it on preseason.
Well, they do also do a lot of scrimmages that they just did not do because of COVID. So preseason, along with the scrimmages, that made a huge impact, I believe, just on these guys going out there, getting into game shape. A lot of soft injury, soft tissue, but we do see a lot of ACL tears during preseason. And that's why we don't even draft until week 4 of the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously this is a different year. We're in the games, so it's like you got to draft. You're starting these guys.
Exactly.
Long benches. Hopefully you got a commish that just allowed a lot of bench spots or a lot of IRs or something. Hopefully, I don't know.
I'll never forget a couple years ago in one of my home leagues we were drafting, and some guy took Jordy Nelson. This was, in the stud Jordy Nelson years, took him in the first round. And then 20 minutes later, he tore his ACL in that preseason game that was going on that day.
Yeah, that was rough. I remember that. Yeah.
Brutal.
That's rough.
Given the curse of drafting early.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get those stacked teams. Like, how did you end up with this team? And then you also end up with just, it's rough. Okay.
Let's go ahead and keep moving on through the news. Devonta Freeman has signed a 1-year deal with the New York Giants worth up to $3 million. So it's good that he finally found a landing place, or accepted a landing place, I should say. In other Giants news, Sterling Shepard has been placed on the IR with a toe injury. He'll be out at least 3 weeks. And then, guys, something crazy happened with a team doctor.
This is interesting.
Yeah, right. Chargers team doctor accidentally punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung before kickoff last week, trying to administer a pain-killing injection to one of his cracked ribs. So Justin Herbert's going to start this week against the Panthers. This tells me that the Chargers team doctor has Justin Herbert on his fantasy team.
And Austin Eckler.
Oh, yeah.
And Austin Eckler.
or Hunter Henry.
Right.
Or Keenan Allen. Somebody.
This is a medical malpractice lawsuit waiting to happen.
Oh, God. I mean, I've cracked a couple of ribs before, and it's hard to do anything with it. I mean, imagine playing a football game. That's a heavy dose of painkillers. I think this is going to highlight how much painkillers gets used.
And then imagine puncturing your lung on top of it.
Oof, that's brutal. especially because Tyrod, he's fighting for a contract at this point. I mean, right now he's the lame duck on the Chargers, and he might not get another chance to play for another team now.
Right. I mean, he'll probably get another shot just because he's a vet, he's a class act guy. I think that's what landed him where he's at right now. Obviously, Coach Lynn says he's still the starter. What are you supposed to say? I mean, he had the job and didn't get injured in a game or anything. You got to feel bad for both of these guys. I mean, team doctor, I'm guessing he's not the team doctor anymore. I don't know.
I really hope not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't wish anybody to lose their job, but obviously that's rough. I mean, both guys probably lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Tyrod and the team doctor. So
fair enough.
Eagles rookie wide receiver Jalen Reagor suffered a thumb injury on Sunday. He'll be out 6 to 8 weeks. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out this week. Nick Mullins is going to start in his place against the New York Giants. And how do you feel about maybe starting Nick Mullins in a Superflex league? Because he has had good fantasy games when he's had to step up into the starting role.
I mean, I don't know if this is crazy to say, but I think Nick Mullins is better than Garoppolo. And the short sample size that we've seen a short sample for Mullins. We've seen a slightly larger one for Garoppolo. But give me Mullins over Garoppolo. I mean, Garoppolo is a game manager to me. Like, he's had a couple games where he threw for like over 2 touchdowns last year. Other than that, it was like 1 a game. He's like a safe quarterback, and he's like a Tyrod type of thing, like he's not gonna lose you a game in real life, but he will lose you a game in fantasy football.
Yep.
He's not a guy that you really want to start. But in Superflex, you're probably happy unless you didn't get Mullins, because Mullins I actually like the talent of Mullins, and I think the rest of the receivers should definitely benefit.
So would you play Mullins or Mitch Trubisky?
Oh, Trubisky easily against Atlanta. I mean, they're giving it up like Wayne Brady horse. I mean, they're just on the corner, just like giving it up. Dave Chappelle's feel bad for them because that's their job. But no,
Mullins or Sam Darnold.
Mullins.
Nader, what about you?
Oh yeah, Mullins over Sam Darnold for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one's the easy take. I mean, Mullins, he's going against the Giants. They're not known for having a stout defense either.
Tevin Coleman hit the IR with a knee injury, so he's likely out for 4 weeks. So injuries hit the 49ers very hard this week. We had a bunch of Thursday did not participate in practice. Juju Smith-Schuster, Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, and Jamison Crowder. These guys have been, fantasy stars. So keep an eye on this come Sunday. We had some players get in limited practices, though. Henry Ruggs, who was actually downgraded to limited. Devontae Adams did some sideline work, and Kenny Golladay got in a limited session as well. So it's looking good for him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kenny Golladay, everybody drafted him very high in the draft. So, I mean, seeing him come onto the field is going to be a very positive and plus for not only the Lions, but your fantasy roster.
Yeah, Marvin Jones is going to love seeing Kenny Golladay opposite because they're playing him like the number one. And let's face it, Marvin Jones is an excellent number two. He's probably the best number two in the league. Once he's a number two, he's becomes sort of a number one because they have to, So it's like he's stellar. I mean, this is great news for Marvin Jones, especially.
Yeah, 100%. Well, guys, before we move into our handcuff discussion, I want to talk to you guys about Thrive Fantasy. It's a daily fantasy sports app for player props. They have eliminated the need to do countless hours of research because they only ask you about the top tier athletes in a respective sport. If it's the NFL, you choose 10 out of the 20 player prop options to build your lineup. If it's NBA, MLB, PGA, or esports, choose 5 out of 10 player prop options to build your lineup. So you're not having to, research who do I want to sign, who's going to be the best value for the cheapest cost. You're just picking the prop bets here. Each prop has a fantasy point total associated with the over or under based on its likelihood to occur, and the more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. You rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool, and guess what? For those of you who like to play daily fantasy with golf, you do not have to, wait the entire weekend and just be bummed out if your golfer gets cut after the second day. They have contests for each day of the tournament. So Thursday only, Friday only, etc. So don't sweat your golfers ruining your weekend by not making the cut. They've awarded over $1.4 million in prizes since launching in 2018. Use promo code SLEEPERS when you sign up today, and you're going to receive an instant $20 bonus on your first deposit of $20 or more. That is SLEEPERS with an S at the end. Download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store or thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today. And also, take a screenshot when you enter promo code SLEEPERS and send it to us at sleeperwire@gmail.com, and it's going to automatically get you into a Sleeper Wire listener league for next year.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Going to be pretty awesome.
You can win cool stuff.
You can win cool stuff. Yeah.
Money is cool stuff.
Signed jerseys in the league. You can win money. I mean, what's there not to like? That's a win-win.
Signed money.
Yeah, signed money from the treasurer. The treasurer's out there signing money and whatnot. It's not good unless he signs it.
No, I'll sign a $20 bill and send it to you.
I don't know if I'll be able to do anything. I don't know.
All right, let's move into our segment here. So our Thursday segment, talking about every team's running back handcuff. Now, some of these are pretty obvious. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. But the main reason that I wanted to talk about this is because, as we mentioned before, nobody saw Mike Davis as being someone who, we would even be talking about this season. He was just, we thought Christian McCaffrey was this invincible player who was never going to get hurt. So Mike Davis, he's unrosterable. I think he was owned in like 2% of Yahoo leagues or something like that before Christian McCaffrey got injured. Well, we're going to sort of see if there are any players that you could preemptively add just in case the starter gets hurt this week. Therefore, you're not blowing 50% of your fab on a backup running back who you're going to have to start, unfortunately. So we're going to maybe look for those players today, and we're going to kick off with the NFC East. The big name, Saquon Barkley for the New York Giants, got injured. They did bring in Devonta Freeman, so now they have Devonta Freeman, Wayne Gallman, and Dion Lewis. Nader, who do you think is going to be the guy there?
I like Dion Lewis the most. He has probably one of the better understandings of this offense. He was already on the field on third downs due to his stout pass protection. He's only owned in 50% of leagues, or Yahoo leagues, I should add. So you could definitely potentially snag him up. Freeman, he's probably not going to play this week. If so, on a limited role. He is going against the Niners, so he might not be able to get too much production, but he's going to be the guy that I'm looking for.
So is that for season long you're looking at Dion Lewis?
In general, I'd rather stay away from this offense just because now you have 3 running backs that you don't know who's going to start. It's probably going to be a committee, but right now in the short term, Dion Lewis is going to be my guy.
See, this one became easy for me the moment they signed Devonta Freeman. It's Freeman for me all day. Now, I'm not going to start him week 1 in a new offense, but season long, I think Devonta Freeman's the guy. I think he's the one who needs to be owned. What about you, Huss?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a different answer, and I think it's Wayne Gallman. I think Wayne Gallman, it was deactivated for a reason. I think this year, especially, you're going to see guys deactivated because their value. Why are you running out the backup? You know what I mean? Like when you can have a guy that's not as good as your backup in this COVID season this year, especially, it doesn't make much sense. So deactivate him. He's more valuable not playing the game than some random backup. Freeman to me is death. He's Doug Martin. I want no parts of Freeman. He's just very unexciting. Joe Judge talked up Wayne Gallman in the offseason. Wayne Gallman, I talked about him yesterday. He's one of those chip guys. I hope he's a chip guy. He's going to prove it to us if he is, in fact, a chip guy or not. But they were talking about him not even making the team. And then, he went out there, killed it. They let go of Levon something, a pretty decent undrafted free agent that was looking pretty good in camp.
I think that answered your question.
They let him go, and he was looking pretty good. If you ask any beat reporter that covers for the Giants, Jordan Renan, and also, sorry, I can't think of his name. He's been on our show.
We're spending way too much time on this.
Yeah. Well, Gallman is your answer.
Well, so I'll give the tiebreaker to Jake Seeley from Monday. He said it's Gallman as well.
There you go.
So
and I listened to that show, and he actually said the same things. What I was saying, he was talking to the beat reporter that works for The Athletic, and his name's escaping me. We've had him on beat a lot, twice this year, and yeah, it's escaping me. But he does like Gallman as well, and I was high on Gallman before that, so that's all I need, a beat reporter to confirm what I've seen when they see the team all the time.
Moving to the Dallas Cowboys, this one is easy. 100% it is Tony Pollard as the handcuff. And, he's most likely owned anyway, correct?
Actually, he's only owned at 27% of Yahoo leagues.
I was actually pulling that up right now.
Yeah, so he is, in my opinion, the best handcuff you could have currently in the NFL. He's already very talented, and he would have probably produced Zeke-like numbers if Zeke held out last year. He's got a great offensive lineman, good quarterback, good offense, probably the best wide receiving core in the NFL. He sees the least stacked boxes out of every NFL team, and in the red zone, they're punching the ball in. He's just probably, in my opinion, one of the best fantasy backs that you can have on your roster.
Yeah, 100% best handcuff in the NFL. I absolutely agree with that. 27% owned. You said that, and I was like, let me go to Yahoo and check. And you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. This is someone who, if you're talking in this context of who do I pick up as a handcuff just in case, it's got to be Tony Pollard, right? If you go to one player out of all 32 that we're going to go through, he's got to be the most valuable. What do you think, Huss?
It's tough for me just because Pollard, although I do like him, I don't know. I don't know if they would just use him entirely. They have Rico Dowdle as their third team guy. Not a very exciting, but then there's also guys like Chase Edmonds, that I do like. We don't know what Raquel Armstead is going to be. James Robinson looks amazing, but again, he is a backup right now, Raquel. There's a lot of, but yeah, I mean, consensus easily Pollard, he's top 3 for sure.
Philadelphia Eagles starter Miles Sanders. We already saw him miss a game, and people fell into the trap of playing Boston Scott. I know I did. I was super bummed about that. Is Scott, who is he 100%? He is the handcuff to Miles Sanders. Is he someone who needs to be owned? Huss, what do you think?
I don't think he's a handcuff. I think he's Scott. He plays his third down role, and I think Corey Clement's the handcuff.
I think that's a hot take. What about you, Nader?
I'm going to slightly disagree.
I'm going to massively disagree.
Fair enough. I mean, Scott is actually owned in still 29% of Yahoo League. So, I mean, a lot of people do have the idea that Miles Sanders is injury prone, which he is. And he's also very fumble prone. Miles Sanders averages a fumble every 33 carries. So, I mean, in the NFL, that's not going to slide. I could see Boston Scott slide a little bit higher in the carry list.
Washington football team, the backfield that nobody wants to touch. Are we comfortable saying that the starter is Antonio Gibson at this point?
Yes. I mean, Antonio Gibson had 9 carries the first game, 13 the next one. He looks like he's going to slowly solidify his role. And because they are in a rebuilding year, they're not necessarily worried about winning games. They're worried about getting Haskins comfortable and that offense comfortable. So they might still be running the ball even when down. They even did that against the Cardinals. They were still running the ball in the fourth quarter.
So let me ask you this. If Antonio Gibson went down, would Peyton Barber be worth picking up?
I mean, he was untalented. No, I don't want to say untalented, but he was unproductive.
I want you to listen to this.
he was unproductive.
I don't need to listen to it.
On Tampa Bay. On Tampa Bay. So, I mean, I don't expect him to replicate those numbers on the Washington football team, who are on a worst offense and a worst offensive line. So, I mean, other than him vulturing touchdowns, I don't see him being a viable fantasy starter.
Now, Huss was a huge Peyton Barber fan in Tampa.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, they didn't have anything, so it's not that I was a huge Peyton Barber fan. Chris knows I like these guys that nobody talks about. It just makes me happy, to talk about the nobodies, the chip guys. Peyton Barber to me was one of those guys that I said he was going to win the starting job, and people were like, "No, they drafted Rojo," and I was like, "It doesn't matter. Peyton Barber is going to win the starting job." And we had several guests on, and Peyton Barber won the job.
Did you call him Rojo?
Ronald Jones?
Ronald Jones?
Yeah. Ronald
Rojo.
Rojo, same thing. Rojo is red, I guess.
You know what? I like Ronald Jones even better.
Ronald Jones. Yeah, he's Spanish. He's Spanish. He's red. But yes, I just felt like he was a useful back. I wouldn't call him unproductive because he was productive. He was the most productive back on his team. So it's kind of hard to say that. I mean, and if you can vulture a touchdown or two, I wouldn't say that's unproductive either, especially in a standard. So in a standard league, absolutely. I don't even know if Washington football team has a starter.
Antonio Gibson.
Antonio Gibson, he technically started.
I don't know if they have a starter.
I mean, Tevin Coleman was technically the starter for the 49ers too.
Technically.
If technically, sure. But
technically,
in reality,
Cam Akers was also starter for the Rams.
That's
and
true.
He got out touched by everybody.
Yeah. Let's move to the NFC West. Arizona Cardinals, the starter is clearly Kenyon Drake. Handcuff is also clearly Chase Edmonds, who is a very valuable handcuff. We saw what he did last year when David Johnson was injured. Who do you think would be better, who's Tony Pollard or Chase Edmonds if their starter went down?
I mean, I think I alluded to this a little bit earlier. I would argue Chase Edmonds would be, just because we've seen him in the role without Drake, and he was RB1. So I mean, if you look at Pollard, we just haven't seen it from him. We've seen him in a limited fashion, but some of these guys can't take on a ton of work. I mean, as I look down in my underpants and I check out Chris Thompson down there, he's one of these guys. He's one of these guys that I love him. I love him to death. I wish he could take 300 carries or 300 touches at least, and he can't. He's probably good with like 150. Any more, he's going to break. Is just what it is. So we don't know what Tony Pollard can handle. We don't know for Chase Edmonds either, but I'd lean Chase. So both guys, I mean, obviously you're static if you got these guys sitting on your bench all season, and they don't even come in. You're still ecstatic because they're on your bench.
I'm going to stop asking you questions because you were rambling on and on. We got 32 teams we got to get to.
You want an answer. I mean,
yeah.
Chase Edmonds or
all right. How do I mute Huss? How do I mute him?
Oh, boy.
You shouldn't have invited me on the show.
I know. That's my bad.
Yeah.
Los Angeles Rams, the starter right now, I think, is Darrell Henderson, which, I mean, it was Malcolm Brown weeks 1 and, well, I guess Cam Akers week 2, technically. Malcolm Brown is questionable. Cam Akers is going to miss. Darrell Henderson absolutely needs to be picked up, right, Nader?
Yeah, he's owned right now in 73% of leagues. So if he's there, you got to have him, and you put him in your flex spot, and you feel pretty comfortable about it. But Malcolm Brown is trending to playing, so
you wouldn't feel comfortable about it. If Malcolm Brown's turning towards playing.
They're both flexible players, but Henderson was pretty explosive against the Eagles late in the game, so I fully expect them to be able to produce both of them even if they both play.
Let's talk about Seattle. Chris Carson, the bona fide starter there. Who is the second? Who is the handcuff to Chris Carson? Is it going to be Carlos Hyde or is it someone else?
I think it's Penny. Hyde, Hyde is probably going to be the backup to the backup at all times. Like to the backup, not even to the starter. I just feel like Hyde he's a great backup. He's good at that role. I think they still want to see what they have in Rashad Penny. He's coming around to be healthy again. I think they're going to give him the first crack.
Carlos Hyde was 1,000-yard rusher and very productive on the Niners. So it's difficult to randomly justify that Pete Carroll looks at draft pick other than actual talent, especially when they're going to be a playoff to Super Bowl contender this year. I think Carlos Hyde's going to be the man.
Wasn't Carlos Hyde also a 1,000-yard rusher last year?
Yes, he was 1,000-yard rusher on the Texans.
Which, you said he was the 1,000-yard rusher on San Francisco, right?
He was not. He was actually, I don't think he ever eclipsed.
No, he never did.
Yards.
It was like 900. He caught a good amount of balls though. That he did do on San Fran.
Yeah, that one season where he had 59 receptions, and then the next year everybody was like, "Oh, he's not a pass catching back." It's like, well, he literally just caught 59.
Right. That's
anyways, neither here nor there. So I think I could say that Carlos Hyde is the backup there. Huss, you think it's Rashad Penny? Nader, you're on the Hyde train there as well?
Yes, sir. 16% owned in Yahoo leagues.
Yep. San Francisco 49ers, the starter is Raheem Mostert, who is injured. He's going to be out. Tevin Coleman also out. So now we're seeing Jerick McKinnon, Jeff Wilson, and maybe even Kyle Juszczyk. We see, vulturing a touchdown or two. Nader, who do you think is the handcuff here for both Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman?
So as a pretty large Niners fans, I'm just going to let you know Jeff McKinnon's going to be the guy. Jeff Wilson is going to be the vulture. Jeff Wilson had 5 touchdowns last year, one of the most on the team. So Jeff McKinnon, he's going to be the almost every down back until you get to the goal line, and then Wilson will probably vulture all the touchdowns for you.
How what you want, but I mean, yeah, he's going to be the backup that you do want at least. I think he's going to be the backup. I wouldn't be surprised if they give him. I wouldn't say all the carries because it's not their style, but I wouldn't be surprised if they give him like most of the work and not even use a second guy too much. I know they have Jermichael Hasty, who a lot of guys like, and you would think I would talk about him right now because I like the obscure guys. But yeah, McKinnon's he's a chip guy. He has a ton to prove right now. He took a pay cut just to stay with the team, which he had to do. They wasn't going to let him earn that much money, and he wasn't starting. But yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for this kid. I really like Jet, and I think he's would have been my number one waiver priority last week.
Yes. Now Hasty is currently still in the practice squad. They did put a protective order on him, so now no team can claim him.
Right.
But as of right now, I'm a little. We're gonna have to wait and see if they call him up to the 53 baller roster.
And if they don't, then McKinnon's gonna work. They like to have at least 3 backs.
Yes.
So if they just don't even call him up, that boy gonna go off.
Oh yeah.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move to the NFC North. We're going to try to pick up the pace here a little bit because we still have 6 more divisions we got to get through. Green Bay Packers. Yeah, sick. Yeah, you stop talking so much.
All right. Not talking the rest of the show.
Green Bay Packers starter is Aaron Jones, who is having a very hot start to the season. He is the RB1 right now. Is his backup Jamal Williams or A.J. Dillon?
Jamal Williams is currently the second right now. He is considered the best catching back, but he had 9 carries last week. I would definitely put him in my stash spot just in case Aaron Jones can't handle it.
I agree. Huss, what do you think? Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams or Dillon?
Williams all day. Give me that boy. I
agree. So Williams has got to own there. If you are the Aaron Jones owner, I mean, we don't want to pick up handcuffs in week 3. So don't think we're doing this show because you got to go grab these guys. But with the way this season is going, especially if we have another horrible injury week, just like we did for weeks 1 and 2, it might be time to start thinking about maybe sacrificing a bench spot to have your starters back up. Which sucks, to do in week 3 or 4, but it might be time to start thinking about that. And that's what we're doing here is if we have another bad week, who can you pick up this week so you don't have to spend the fab or the waiver priority next week? Chicago Bears, the starter is David Montgomery. I think the 3 of us should be comfortable saying that Tariq Cohen is the second guy, right?
Yeah, he's owned 65% of leagues right now, but they've both been pretty disappointing as of production so far, especially because Cohen is considered a PPR player. But yeah, fully agree.
Yep. I would say Artavis Pierce.
Really?
I mean, I think Tariq Cohen's a pass-catching back. I don't think they're ever going to give him 20 carries. So I think that they're going to use Tariq Cohen how they use him and then bring up Artavis Pierce, and that'll be that. So
all right.
I just can't see him as a starter.
I mean, he's been the starter before, though, and he was successful.
And they still have Cordell Patterson, who's technically the third string RB now.
I forgot about Cordell Patterson.
The fastest running back on the team.
Yep, 100%. Let's move to Minnesota. The starter is Dalvin Cook. Alexander Madison, definitely the most valuable definitely the handcuff in Minnesota. It's not Mike Boone by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see. So we've got 3 very valuable guys who are owned in several leagues so far. We have Tony Pollard, Chase Edmonds, and could we say that Alexander Madison is probably the 3rd most important handcuff?
Ooh, that one could be debatable. We will talk about him later on, but he is owned in 41% of leagues. And the way Dalvin Cook is playing right now, we might see Madison play a little bit more, especially with how that offense is going. But yeah, he's definitely the handcuff.
For the Detroit Lions, the starter is either Kerryon Johnson or Adrian Peterson or DeAndre Swift. Nader, do you know who the starter is for the Detroit Lions?
As of right now, Kerryon Johnson is the down first play of the game starter, but he is one of the least productive backs on this in this depth chart. I'd prefer to stay away from this entirely.
Right. Is there a clear handcuff to the starter here?
No, stay away. AP's the starter, I think, and stay away from the rest of these guys.
Yeah.
Yep, I completely agree.
In redraft, Swift, obviously, you want that guy on your team.
Clearly, yeah. In Dynasty, yep, absolutely. Let's move to the NFC South. The New Orleans Saints starter is Alvin Kamara, of course. Handcuff is Latavius Murray, who played really, really well last year when Kamara was out for a couple games. So, but can you consider Latavius Murray to be a handcuff? Because he's got some standalone value as well.
He does. It's just difficult to go after. He is owned in 59% of leagues, and because Alvin Kamara is a little bit more on the injury-prone side, Murray is probably one of the best handcuffs you could have that realistically will get you fantasy production.
Arguably the number one, I would say, over Pollard.
Okay.
Chase Edmonds.
Gotcha. That's high praise, but you know what? He might deserve it the way he played last year when he had the job.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay, the starter is Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette. Both of these guys are very owned. Who
90%.
is the 90%?
Both of them, yes.
Okay. Who is the handcuff in Tampa Bay? Shady?
No, I'm gonna have to give that a no. I mean, they're both A1, AB. I can't justify holding a handcuff for either one of those teams because Tampa Bay is not set up to run the ball. They're set up to throw first. I'm staying away from either one of this offense if I don't have either Fournette or Rojo.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a 1A and 1B type of situation. You don't want the backup, since they don't really have a backup. I mean, their backup is McCoy, I guess, and yeah, he did look good. He did look good, though. I will say he did look good. He did drop a touchdown, though.
Yes, he did,
right in the end zone. So I don't know how much playing time he gonna get after that.
Yeah,
I mean, but these guys are fumbling balls. I mean, look, the team is not. They still have a makeshift line. It's better than last season, their line, but their line still is not good at all. Right? I mean, their defense has improved a ton, even better than last year. But yeah, they don't have a handcuff. It's 1A, 1B, and then just stay away.
Sure. Atlanta Falcons starter is Todd Gurley. Is it Brian Hill or Ito Smith as the handcuff, Huss?
Audrey Allison.
It's not Allison.
It's Allison.
What about you, Nader? What do you think?
Brian Hill.
It's Brian Hill.
I mean, right now, the way their defense is playing, they have to air it out in order to move the ball down the field. I mean, I'd rather own none of the shares on this team, but Brian Hill would be the guy for me.
How embarrassing was it just watching them just like scoot with that ball on the onside kick and just let it roll 5 yards for a down? Did they not know they could jump on it before 10 yards?
Nobody wants to be the guy that drops or fumbles the football trying to pick it up. So, I mean, the announcer for that game said it perfectly. It's like a baseball when it's rolling down the third baseline, you expect it to go out of it, to the foul ball, but it doesn't.
But eventually it's going to cross the 10-yard mark.
Yeah, nobody thought so.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Carolina Panthers, the starter was Christian McCaffrey, of course. Handcuff, hands down, is Mike Davis. He was the number one waiver pickup of the week, according to a lot of people, including Jake Seeley. We were actually going to do two great debates on Monday. We ended up going with Russell Gage versus Laviska Shenault, but we were also going to do Mike Davis versus Wayne Gallman until the news that McCaffrey was not going to miss the whole season. And then he was like, oh, well, it's Mike. No, the news that Barkley was going to miss the whole season. And then he was like, okay, it's Mike Davis.
So I think Mike Davis is the best sell high candidate before he plays. Because if you look at a schedule, he plays the Chargers, then he goes to Arizona, then he goes to the Bears. He's not going to increase in value, and by then McCaffrey's going to come off the IR, and he's going to obviously lose his job, and then he's going to be droppable at that point.
But can you sell Mike Davis though?
If you're a McCaffrey owner, you're probably desperate.
You can definitely sell Mike Davis. He was the number one waiver wire priority for most people. I mean, it was Mike Davis and Jerick McKinnon.
Give me anything for Mike Davis. I'll take it because it'll still be a come up.
If you get a third in a dynasty, I'll take it.
Yeah. Give me Corey Davis. I'll take Corey Davis.
Oh, heck yeah. Here's the thing though, right? I mean, they had Reggie Bonifant last season, and when he came in, he looked like McCaffrey. The dude beasted, right? Again, going back to my theory on if you don't have your starter or your backup starting like deactivated, it's because he's probably the clear guy. You're going to have a pass catcher also, or a special teams guy. You're going to have space for him versus a guy that you value a little bit more. So I would definitely sell him. And I also think that Reggie Bonifant could be the backup. So I would not be too surprised if he comes out and they just start giving him the ball and he kind of splits with Mike Davis. Mike Davis is not a good rusher at all. And Reggie Bonifant, I think he had 22 touches for like 147 or 60 something yards. I don't have it in front of me, a couple touchdowns. Guy was a beast. So, I mean, it was super short sample, but yeah, I would get rid of Mike Davis as soon as I can.
Exactly.
Guys, guess what? I started Ryan Fitzpatrick in our Sleeper Wire Dynasty League.
Oh,
I'm enjoying that.
29 points. He went off.
19 so far.
Oh, 19. Oh, I was talking about last week.
Yeah. No, this week. Yeah. He's going off tonight.
Yeah. What is it 14-0 still or
21-7?
21-7. So no, it is not 14-0.
Oh, wow.
Well, let's move to the AFC. Buffalo Bills, the starter is Devin Singletary. Are we comfortable saying that Zach Moss is the handcuff?
It might be the other way around at this point. Zach Moss has been out touching Devin Singletary so far through the 2 weeks.
He's doing nothing with the carries he's getting. He scores his touchdown on the, he can vulture something, but he's not a good rusher.
Unfortunately, he's got the production for it so far. I mean, Zach Moss is owned in 73% of leagues, while Devin Singletary is owned at 91%. So right now, the popular majority thinks it's going to be Devin Singletary. Personally, I'd stay away from this backfield in general.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. New England Patriots starter Sony Michel, or is it Cam Newton starting running back?
Cam Newton. At this point, the Patriots don't have a backfield, and you don't deal with it.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with it. What about you, Huss?
Yeah, if it's not James White, I don't want any parts.
Yeah, and James White did not mention that in the notes, but he is still not at practice due to the passing of his father, which was rough.
Don't be surprised if he misses the season.
Yep, the season.
Yeah, I mean, you never know how death affects people, so
that's true.
You just don't be surprised if he misses the season.
Yep. The New York Jets starter was Le'Veon Bell. Last week, Frank Gore, 21 carries. So I think we can assume that Frank Gore is the handcuff for Le'Veon Bell, right?
Yeah, but if Adam Gase is the head coach, you don't want any part of that offense. I mean, Frank Gore would be the handcuff to Le'Veon Bell.
I like LaMichael Pirine to show what he can do because Adam Gase hates Lev Bell. So he would love for Pirine to come in and just look better than Gore and then say, hey, I'm trading him, or just flat out cutting Bell because he hates him so much. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that either. So if you have a deep bench, add Pirine. He's probably there on waivers. Nobody probably picked him up, but he should see an increase of work this week.
For the Miami Dolphins, a starter was Jordan Howard. I think now it is Myles Gaskin, which guy would you rather own, Huss? I'm leaning Gaskin now. I dropped Howard in a few leagues this week.
I still want Howard just because he's going to get the goal line, and Gaskin's, if he doesn't rush for a ton, he's just going to give you, 6 to 7 points. I mean, that's what Howard's going to do. If he scores a touchdown, which he's going to get goal line opportunities, and if he gets you a couple, then
he's got one rush for 1 yard and a touchdown tonight.
1 yard long.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's brutal.
Yeah,
the LeGarrette Blunt of today's era.
Jakeem Grant is their leading rusher right now with 20 points.
Who was it a few years ago had 3 touchdowns on 3 carries for 3 yards? Was it Michael Turner?
Him or the Patriots fullback?
No, I think it was Michael Turner. I think that was on the league. If you guys ever watched the league.
Oh, yeah. Michael Turner feels so old, though. Michael Turner feels like 8 years old.
As in, like, that was 8 years ago?
Yeah. Was it?
I don't know. You said he feels like he's 8 years old.
No, like if like talking about Michael Turner feels like 8 years ago, I should say.
There you go.
Gotcha. Let's move to the AFC West. Kansas City Chiefs starter, definitely Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Who is the handcuff there? Darwin Thompson, Darrell Williams? Who is it?
If Clyde gets hurt, they're definitely going to bring in another running back. Williams is injured himself, and he was pretty disappointing. Thompson, he cannot hold a workload due to how small he is as a person. But right away, I'd go Williams.
So you're saying Lamar Miller is the handcuff to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Jay Ajayi is the handcuff.
Mr. No Knees.
Las Vegas Raiders starter Josh Jacobs, 100%. Who is the handcuff to Jacobs?
Booker is owned in 1% of leagues, but he had 3 rushes for -1 yards last week. Jalen Richard, he had his nice little 20-yard touchdown against the Saints. I would rather have Richard due to his pass catching ability.
Yeah, I lean Richard as well. What do you think, Ace?
I mean, if we're talking the backup, I think it's Booker, but yeah, I would much rather have Richard.
Okay. The Los Angeles Chargers starter is Austin Eckler. Handcuff for him. Well, we had Justin Jackson. Did he get injured?
He got phased out.
Yeah, he's just Kelly's.
He's just not playing. Yeah, Josh Kelly playing well. So Kelly handcuff for Austin Eckler.
Yeah, I mean, he had 23 carries last week. He's already a solid flex in himself. He's on the 62% of leagues. It'll be difficult.
Denver Broncos starter Melvin Gordon. We have Philip Lindsay, who is likely going to be out for several weeks now, right?
He said he's aiming for next week, but I highly doubt that's going to happen.
So Royce Freeman, is he worth a pickup right now?
I think so.
I wouldn't justify it. I'd still rather have Philip Lindsay due to the longevity of the year rather than just a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want Freeman, but if you're stuck and you had just dealt with a shit ton of injuries like we just dealt with, I actually think I'm starting Freeman in the league. So they're using him a decent amount to spell Gordon. So it's a chance he gets you about 9 points. You're not excited about it, but it's points.
Moving to the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens starters, I think we can say starters, Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins are kind of splitting that starting role, but we did see Gus Edwards he led the team in carries, didn't he?
He did. Now, it's a four-headed monster in that backfield because you have to count the quarterback taking the carries. So, I mean, if I don't have Mark Ingram or J.K. Dobbins, there's no point owning anything.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with Gus Edwards.
Guys, I just got to trade for Mark Ingram for my Josh Kelly.
I would take Ingram.
I'd rather have Josh Kelly.
Me too. I did not take it. I didn't cancel it though.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I was considering Ingram, but I think I'd rather have Kelly. So I don't know.
I don't blame you for having either one.
It was a fair trade. I was surprised to see it actually.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. Pittsburgh Steelers starter is James Conner. We saw Benny Snell get a significant amount of work when Conner went out in week 1. Benny Snell came in and got a bunch of carries, but James Conner came right back next week and Snell got nothing. Are we still comfortable saying Snell is the guy?
Snell's the backup, but he had fumbling issues. I mean, he's had 2 fumbles in the 2 games he's played. Steelers are not going to let that slide. If James Connors is healthy, he's the workhorse.
Yeah, these guys are Super Bowl aspiring. They want to win. You can't fumble the ball and expect to get playing time.
But
yes, he is the backup, though.
Correct. There we go.
So who is, if Connor were to go down, who would be the guy to pick up? Would it be him or would it be Jalen Samuels?
Snell all the way.
I would say Anthony McFarland. They'll probably give him an extended look just because, yes, it's Snell, but I think that they're going to see what McFarland could do. And I mean, he looked good in college. There were a lot of people were excited and thought that he'd win the job. So I wouldn't be too surprised if you see him split work after these fumbles.
Moving to the Cleveland Browns, you got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, both starting options every single week for you. I honestly, who's their third running back? I couldn't even tell you.
I couldn't tell you either because he's irrelevant. Kareem Hunt is technically the handcuff, but he is in his own league as well.
I will say, I told someone in our Sleeper Wire channel in Sleeper, he said, pick 2 running backs, and he had Chubb and Hunt. And I was like, honestly, you could play both of them. And this was last week against the Bengals, and he played both of them and got 4 touchdowns.
There you go.
Yeah, both of those guys are just going to ball all season. I mean, they don't have anything. I take that back. They have Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, but they don't use these guys.
And Austin Hooper. And
retarded. It doesn't make sense.
Cincinnati Bengals starter is Joe Mixon. Now, Huss, I will give you a platform here to talk about Gio for 1 minute. Go.
Well, yeah, Gio Bernard. I mean, they were paying this guy $8 million. I think he's making maybe like 6 now. That's a lot of money. They use him now, so he's absolutely the handcuff. And whenever Joe Mixon misses time, Gio is a beast. Like, I don't even know. I mean, I know why they drafted Joe Mixon, but they really could have probably just wrote it out with Gio until his legs fell off. They only really gave him 3 years of starter, and he was a beast whenever he played. Now he's a smaller guy. You know, Joe Mixon's a big bruiser, but I don't know. I mean, Gio's this twitchy, just shifty guy. He just does well with the touches that he gets. I'm excited about Gio. I mean, I have him. He's arguably a top 5 backup as well, or top 3 even. I mean, he's that good. He's that dependable. We know what he is. So that's why it makes it easy for you to just have him on your bench kind of all season. Even if there's other guys out there that you're probably not going to start, but could be a flex for you.
So say you've got to pick up a guy. You want to pick up a guy, after the show tonight. Are you picking up Bernard, Pollard, Edmonds? Which one of those guys?
I mean, I'm obviously going to pick up Pollard or Edmonds just because they're more valuable. So it's kind of like in Fab when you drop Fab, there's going to be Fab people that you pick up, and then Wayne Gallman's going to be there, right? And you don't have to spend any Fab on him, and you just add him once he's a free agent and waivers clear. So you treat it kind of the same. Gio, you just leave him there. No one's going to pick him up because no one's interested in Gio Bernard. But you use your brain and you go back to see his time when he does play, when Mixon does miss time, and you add him for free. So let everybody spend the Fab and let you have all of your Fab at the end of the season, and you drop it on the guy that's really worth it at week 16 or 15, and you have to win your championship, and you got the Fab to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on. I think we have one final division. We're almost at the AFC South. Tennessee Titans starter is Derrick Henry. For the backup, Nader, who we got?
So you have Dariaton. His name is a little difficult. Dariaton Evans. He's already injured, and Jeremy Nicoloios, who was promoted from the practice squad. I mean,
Nick Nichols.
Nick Nichols.
Nichols,
I mean,
and Darrington Evans.
That's definitely the 2 coolest names for running backs right there. You know what? They deserve roster spots because of the names.
They deserve roster spots.
but I would personally look away from this backfield. Derrick Henry has shown that he is a very solid and durable running back. But Darius Evans would be the guy that I look for.
And
Jacksonville.
I'm gonna give you a name you never heard, Sonoris Perry. He's older guy, but he's got some size on him, and the team seems to like him in camp at least. At least that's what the beat reporters have been saying. They said that he's looked like the backup. Now, granted, again, this is a situation where they didn't really give him run. They've been giving Nichols run, but that also could be because of what I was alluding to earlier. You have the backup deactivated. So I don't know. I'm either going to be right on all these guys or wrong on all of them. I think that but based off of all the beat reporters been saying, it's been Perry. Darrington Evans is a hot rookie name, and Jerry McNichols. I feel bad for the guy because he was supposed to be a starter in this league, and he just was nothing. I hope it's McNichols actually, but I think it's Perry.
For the Jaguars, James Robinson looks like the absolute starter. Is there anyone? Is Chris Thompson even a handcuff? I don't know if James Robinson went down. If there's anyone on the Jaguars I would want to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, James Robinson, he is the handcuff because he was technically the third string running back at that point. So, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with him once Ozingabo comes off the IR and Armstead, he comes off the COVID list. We don't really know what's going to happen in that backfield. So if James Robinson loses 30% of his share, he might be fantasy irrelevant. Him is just like, let's see, the Panthers, now Mike Davis. I think he is now a sell high candidate.
For sure. We had John Shipley on. He's a beat reporter for the Jaguars. Steve, he hosted on beat. He had him on twice. And once Fournette got traded, he actually posed a question. We were able to get him for an emergency pod. And he said that Raquel Armstead should be the starter. He talked about Ozigbo. He talked about James Robinson. But he did say that Raquel Armstead is the starter. Should be. Now he's been dealing with COVID. He had about a week to practice, which they said he looked really good when he did practice, but only about a week in this whole offseason. Devin Ozigbo's probably going to be the one that comes back right away. Yeah. Well, not right away, but before Armstead does. But Armstead would be the guy that I would want to have stashed on my IR, just in case there is something that goes wrong with James Robinson. But this is James Robinson's job. He is their future. I think that this made seeing him in the limited fashion that they did see him in made it very easy for them to move on.
I agree. For the Colts, starter clearly Jonathan Taylor. Who is the handcuff? Because I am not convinced that it is 100% Nyheim Hines. Jordan Wilkins has stepped up in the past over Hines to be the starter.
Yeah, Wilkins is probably the best option, but Hines is the current best second option because, well, he's going to get playing time. Now, he got absolutely no playing time and no touches last week, which is immensely disappointing. But Hines, for me, would be the guy I should own right now.
Yeah, agreed wholeheartedly. Hines is the guy.
And then for the Houston Texans, David Johnson, the number one starter there. Duke Johnson is the handcuff, right?
Yeah, he's owned in 21% of leagues, and he's the current third down back, so he has some sort of substance already, but that offense is pretty lackluster, so if I had to choose a handcuff to own, I'd stay away from the Texans.
And if I have to give you another name, which I'm Huss, I would say Buddy Howell. Just add him on your watch list. He looked really good in preseason last year. We didn't have a preseason this year, so I think he probably would have won the job. But yeah, Buddy Howell's a guy that nobody knows about. Go look him up. He did very well last year, and he's healthy now. So he's a guy that I would watch, and I wouldn't spend any fab on him because you're going to be able to get him for free.
All right, guys. So like I said, the point of this was not to, say, okay, who do you need to go pick up right now? It's more of in anticipation of more injuries coming, which let's face it, there probably are more injuries coming. Who are the top three guys, if you have a roster spot today that you're like, hey, just in case this guy gets injured, I'm going to throw in a claim for? Who's your top three? Okay, so I'm going to put Jalen Richard number one right now because Josh Jacobs still hasn't practiced and he's coming off his Monday night injury. So as of right now, Thursday, he did not practice, which puts him in a questionable spot to play Sunday. So if you want an immediate potential starter right away, Jalen Richard might be the guy that I look for.
And rest of the season?
Rest of the season, I would go, you have to go with the top backs, which would be Edmonds, Pollard, and Latavius Murray.
Agree.
All right. I think I'm in agreement there as well. I will say I do like Jamal Williams a lot. So if Aaron Jones goes down, I might put Jamal Williams up in that group too.
You also want to look at injury-prone backs like James Conner. He's injury-prone. Right now, Alvin Kamara, he's also a little bit of an injury-prone bug. I mean, going after people that have been healthy their whole career is a little bit illogical.
Right. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so if you guys have that roster spot on your team that doesn't, that you have a guy you can easily drop, this is something that would be maybe a good thing to consider for each one of your, the rosters that you have in each one of your leagues, is that if you have a guy who you're not going to play, maybe it's a guy that you can just drop right now and just take a flyer on a handcuff just in case the starter gets injured. If they're out there, that's fab. You don't have to spend next week. And then you can, pick up someone else for the cheap.
And I suggest do this every week.
Yeah.
Like approach every week. Like, I'm not going to start this guy and no one's going to pick him up because there's going to be waiver guys that's going to do well. So drop that guy and go ahead and pick up the backup. Because if they get injured, you win. I mean, like it's the best moment ever. Like you look smart, you get to say fab, you get to glow. It's great. It's not great for the guy that gets injured, but
2020 is going to keep striking.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's not over, unfortunately. I wish we could end it today.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in. Nader, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you tell the listeners or remind the listeners where people can follow you and support you?
Yeah, I'm very happy to be on the show. It's tons of fun being on here. Hopefully you guys have me more often. Thank you. Thank you. So, of course, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you guys could see in the little backdrop right here. TTTFantasyFootball.com would be the best way to see it, because over there we link our podcast, the YouTube shows that we do. We just bought a huge green screen, so we're going to have fun with all that, with all the animations and all that good stuff. And then, of course, Twitter at, Top Tier Tactics. One, and then on Instagram, TTT Fantasy Football, where we're always doing start sits, where we always get our questions on starts and sits, of course, and all that good stuff.
And you can follow us on Twitter at SleeperWireShoe. Shoe. Let me try that again.
Cancel Wire shoes, baby. Yep. Go to our Patreon. Go to our website. We got them Sleeper Wire shoes.
Sleeper Wire Show. There we go. Speaking of things, you might be able to get shoes at some point. We have the Sleeper Wire store is up and running. Sleeperwire.com/store. Get your How Does This Affect Marlon Mack hoodie. That thing's nice. Nice. You can get a G-string with Huss's face on it right there.
What does this mean for Marlon Mack? I mean, I know we're talking Devontae Adams, but what does it mean for Marlon Mack?
Oh, God, I hate that joke.
But you get it. But you get it.
I get it. Yes, I get it.
Huss is on there at SleeperWire Huss. I'm on Twitter at Prof_ChrisSW. And then follow us on Sleeper, or find us on Sleeper at Prophet Huss and Professor Chris. And Nader, you're on the Sleeper app too, I assume?
Yes, Top Tier Tactics FF.
Top Tier Tactics FF. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next week. And then